This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Happy Friday, everybody. We made it. We made it. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. My man Chris Canty in here from Mike Golic. Trey Wingo here with you. Chris, I have to believe, after what we saw last night in Game 5 between the Rockets and the Warriors, that suddenly everybody believes they can win the NBA championship. Now, I mean, look,
so you're saying it's a chance.
Let's just say that Houston and Golden State, even though they lost, as well as the two teams that were played tonight, Boston and Cleveland, maybe woke up this morning thinking,
anything's possible! We had to go with the KG drop.
That, of course, Kevin Garnett, after the Celtics won that championship with the big three there. But look, what did we all say? Well, you know, Golden State, they'll figure it out. They'll get it done. They'll find a way to right the ship. Hold on now. Hold on. They're not 48 minutes away from going home, and suddenly everybody thinks, hey, I think we went from maybe thinking two teams could win the NBA championship in the finals. I think now all four teams think they have a chance to win the NBA championship.
Absolutely. The Golden State Warriors certainly don't look right, and I didn't want to give the Houston Rockets credit defensively for what they did in Game 4. But I don't know how I can take the credit away from what they did last night because, again, in the critical stretches of the game, they were able to play lockdown defense, and the Golden State Warriors didn't look composed. They weren't themselves. So a part of that has to be attributed to the pressure that Mike D'Antoni's team put on the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to today as Golic and Wingo is presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. A lot of guests for you coming up. We'll talk a lot about the game last night. We'll preview Game 6 tonight, rather, where the Cavs try to stave off elimination at home in Cleveland. Jeff Darlington will be here, our ESPN NFL reporter. Byron Scott, three-time NBA champion and former coach in the NBA, will join us. Eddie George.
Hey now.
And a former NFL player and now an actor who has appeared on Broadway, really made an unbelievable second act in his career. He'll stop by a little later. We're going to have the Marty Party from the Indianapolis 500, and Alvin Gentry, the Pelicans head coach, will join us as well. But it is going to be a busy, jam-packed Friday as people are getting ready for the holiday weekend. So let's get you started with what's trending, and we begin with what happened in H-Town last night. Eric Gordon came off the bench to score 24 points, and his steal on Golden State's last possession secured the 98-94 four-point win that gives the Rockets the 3-2 lead in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, Eric Gordon was huge last night. 17 second-half points, including 10 in the fourth quarter. The play that he made where he pump fake and got KD off his feet led to 3 easy free throws. That made it a 2-possession game, a 4-point lead. I think it was 80-84. And you saw that the Houston Rockets continued to maintain that lead down the stretch. But Eric Gordon and Chris Paul, that was the story in that game because they were the difference in the second half. On a night where the Houston Rockets struggled to shoot the basketball, those two players came through for him in the clutch.
H-Town, stand up!
Oh, I was just about to play it, man. You beat me to it.
H-Town, stand up!
I'm telling you, the Cavs need to hire Stephen A. as their hype man because ever since he went on this unbelievable rant, the Houston Rockets have won 2 games. Unbelievable. 2 games in a row against the Golden State Warriors. Again, they had not lost back-to-back postseason games since the 2016 NBA Finals when they were up 3-1 on the Cavs and then lost all 3 to lose that championship to Cleveland. But the other thing that's really interesting, and we talked about it yesterday, you know, belief is a powerful thing. The Warriors, with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry in the lineup, are 17-2 in the playoffs against every other team not named the Houston Rockets. They're now 2-3 against the Houston Rockets. And, oh, by the way, the Rockets took 2 out of 3 in the regular season. So you can say whatever you want. Houston now has the absolute faith that they have the secret sauce to take down the Golden State team that nobody else has.
And there's something to that. Like you said, having that belief in yourself and really the confidence to be able to perform and execute down the stretch, that's probably the most critical thing when it comes to postseason play.
Right.
And so you're looking at what the Houston Rockets have been able to do these last couple of games, and they think that they figured something out with the Golden State Warriors. They've demonstrated to themselves that they can actually go out there and they can beat those guys and they can dictate the pace of play. Because if you look at how the game is shaped, there's a lot of isolation ball, and that's much more the Houston Rockets style than the Golden State Warriors style. So, yeah, Houston should be feeling pretty good about themselves and what they've done these last couple of games. but we'll have to see what happens with that Chris Paul injury and whether he's going to be right for Game 6.
Well, that's the problem going forward. And for all the people saying, oh, well, Andre Iguodala, look, man, okay, you got your best player in James Harden who can't hit water if he fell out of a boat right now if it comes to three-point shooting. And as you mentioned, Chris Paul's got that injured hamstring. So they're doing it without their best player hitting anything, and their second best player may not be available and was out of the game down the stretch. Houston has shown they have bowed up and bowed up well.
H-Town, stand up!
Meanwhile, we got a Game 6 tonight in the Eastern Conference in Cleveland. They return home for Game 6 against the Celtics, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Radio, as they are trying to stave off elimination against the Celtics. This might be LeBron James's final game as a Cleveland Cavalier, and it might be his final home game as a Cleveland Cavalier.
Yeah, I fully expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to win Game 6. This is going to go down to a Game 7. We talk about how the role players play better at home, and that has been true in this series. So when we see this two teams going back and forth, it'd be interesting to see what we get from the guys from the Cleveland Cavaliers outside of LeBron James and Kevin Love. Those guys have got to come to the party. They've got to play well, but I think the most important part of this, because I'm already assuming that they're going to win Game 6, they've got to be able to take what they do tonight back into TD Garden when they play in Game 7.
Yeah, I think we'll see I think you get the full LeBron force tonight. Mm-hmm. And then what we always see with the role players in the playoff series, they always play better at home.
Yes.
Now, and they don't have to play great. They just kind of have to play.
Yeah.
Remember, in the loss in Boston in Game 5, for the 5th time this postseason, LeBron himself outscored the other 4 starters. If that happens tonight, we're not seeing a Game 7.
No, we're not seeing a Game 7, but I don't think that'll happen tonight, Trey. Like, I fully anticipate those guys being able to feed off the energy from the crowd in Cleveland, and that's going to be the difference in terms of them being able to perform. But again, I want those guys to play well and figure out a formula for success. We keep talking about the Houston Rockets having a formula against Golden State. I need those role players for the Cavs to figure out the formula and what it's going to take to be able to beat the Boston Celtics in TD Garden. That's the most important thing.
Right. And if you're one of those people who, air quotes, believes in biorhythms and disengagement and interest, I have to believe what happened last night in Houston got LeBron's interest way up. Now, I don't buy into that, but if that's the theory you're going down, I think this will be shown tonight, right?
Agreed. Completely agree. We'll see what happens.
We'll see if the rest of the Cavs, though, can do what they need to do. Can the rest of the Cavs make the switch tonight? Make the Switch, brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Staying in the NBA, LeBron James and James Harden were unanimously voted All-NBA First Team. It was announced Thursday, with James earning the nod for a record 12th time in his 15-year career. What the hell happened in those other 3 years? He passed Kobe Bryant and Karl Malone for the most All-NBA First Team selections. Joining them on the squad, Kevin Durant, New Orleans' Anthony Davis, and Portland's Damian Lillard, the All-NBA First Team, as voted on by the media.
LeBron James should be the MVP every single year, right?
Preach!
I mean, there's no player that means more to his team than LeBron James. I mean, there's no player that means more to the league than LeBron James. So when you start talking about the most valuable player, that's LBJ. Now, the most outstanding season, that could be James Harden. And I think that's where you have to make that distinction. My co-host, Rick DiPietro, at 98.7 in
He's
New York.
He's a feisty little nugget.
Feisty little nugget. You say he's taking too much vulcanized rubber to the head. He always says that they have to have 2 awards. It should be most outstanding player, and then it's the MVP.
Like the NFL does.
Exactly.
They do the best offensive player and all that kind of stuff, and then they have the MVP. Look, and I get it. It's a regular season award. But this playoff run is telling you why LeBron James is the most valuable player over James Harden. Mm-hmm. I mean, James Harden had one of those awful shooting nights in one of the first rounds of the playoffs, and the Rockets won by 20. He's missed his last 23-pointers.
Including 0 for 11 last night.
And they've won 2 games in a row. Now, imagine if LeBron went 0 for 20 on 3-pointers over 2 games. The Cavs would lose by 700 points. Okay? So we can say whatever you want about the season James Harden had, and he had a fabulous season. Know this, and you know it in your soul whether you want to admit it or not. Deep down in the places where you don't talk about and you don't tell people at night, you know LeBron James is the MVP, and it ain't even close. By the way, in the other 3 years that he didn't make first team All-NBA, he finished second team twice. In his rookie season, he wasn't on any of the 3 All-NBA teams. So we continue. Mike Trout and Albert Pujols each hit solo home runs for the Angels last night. And Shohei Ohtani. I want you. I'm I'm sure his biggest accomplishment since coming over and playing in America is the fact that he has a horrible drop on this show named after him. Ohtani doubled twice, and the Angels beat the Toronto Blue Jays 8-1. Angels begin a 3-game series against the Yankees tonight in the Bronx, and Ohtani had been scheduled to pitch against fellow Japanese right-hander Masahiro Tanaka on Sunday, but Mike Scioscia announced yesterday, that they're pushing back his next start.
Well, yeah, that's disappointing not to be able to see him square off against a team that was in on trying to get him to come over from Japan. But if you like home runs, then you're going to like this 3-game set that the Angels and the Yankees are going to put together this weekend. I mean, the Angels are 5th with 64 home runs, and the Yankees are by far and away the best team at hitting the long ball with 79 home runs. So it'll be a fun series to watch. Got Luis Severino on the mound, so hopefully there won't be a lot of home runs for the Angels tonight.
Well,
because I'm a Yankees fan.
Well, I understand. You're a guy from the Bronx.
Yeah, Co-op City, born and raised.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it'll be really fun to see this. It is a disappointment on the stage of Yankee Stadium. You won't see Ohtani there. But Ohtani has been nothing but living up to the hype. It's unbelievable, especially after the spring that we saw out of him, that he's been able to pitch the way he's been able to pitch. The stroke has always been there. Just he will not be on the mound this weekend at Yankee Stadium. And, of course, it's Memorial Day weekend, and it's one of the great sporting traditions in this country. Memorial Day weekend means Sunday is the 102nd running of the Indy 500. Ed Carpenter will be the pole sitter and lead the 33-driver field to the green flag. Most of the attention will be on a couple of rows back, where Helio Castroneves is going for his 4th Indy 500 win, which would tie 3 other people with the most, and Danica Patrick competing in her final race.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's one of the spectacles of sports, and of the sports world will be on Indianapolis this weekend. Everybody wants to see how this is going to work out, but I'm excited about it. Everybody always talks about how big of a deal this is for racing, and so it'll be great to be able to see this weekend. Looking forward to it.
Yep. So, again, the race is on ABC, and the Watch ESPN app. It starts at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Okay, that is what's trending. Golic and Wingo. Chris Canty in for Mike Golic. Trey Wingo here with you, reminding the 30 for 30 podcasts have returned. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts right now on the Listen tab of the ESPN app or in the Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/30. So, we have the Golden State Warriors in a position where they have not been in since the 2016 season, a game away from elimination. And for the first time since the 2016 postseason, they have lost back-to-back games, and it's because the Houston Rockets have decided to follow the advice of Stephen A. Smith.
H-Town, stand up!
But perhaps most importantly is they are finding – I think what we're seeing from Houston right now is the one thing that we were concerned about going into this series. Do they have enough grit? Do they have enough do they have enough to get by when things aren't going well? As we said, James Harden, if he were skydiving, he would miss Earth. Okay, that's how off his shot is right now.
Yeah.
And they have still won back-to-back games, which means Mike D'Antoni is doing a great job of understanding exactly what happens. And I think he's done an amazing job with his team. I think he said all the right things at all the right moments, especially after game 1. We're like, I admit it, I bought into it as soon as the Warriors went down there in game 1, where the Rockets had fought all this way to get game 7 at their place and they won by double digits. I was like, no, man, this thing is pretty much going to play out the way we thought it did. But Mike D'Antoni said all the right things, and now this team is still in a position to have that game 7 if they need it to close out the Warriors.
Yeah, I think game 2 was big for the Houston Rockets, being able to have the confidence to go out there and make those plays and beat the Golden State Warriors. And so when you have that, you're able to pull from those different experiences in the games earlier in the series. And I think that Houston has finally figured out a way to attack the Golden State Warriors defense and all of the switches that they do to get the matchups that they're looking for on the offensive side, and then being able to isolate. You saw the matchups that they created in the fourth quarter, being able to get Chris Paul on Joe Looney. Those types of things, being able to consistently do that throughout the game, it made it tough on the Golden State Warriors. And so I like what the Houston Rockets are doing. I'm sure that Mike D'Antoni is pleased with what they're doing. Now, they're going to face a different type of Golden State Warriors team going back in game 6 because it's an elimination game for them. So they're got to be ready for Golden State's best punch. And when you look at what Mike D'Antoni has done the last couple of games, only having 7 guys in his rotation, now with Chris Paul having that injury, you wonder how it's going to look in terms of who he's going to have in and out of the lineup. How is he going to spell the guys that Eric Gordon, James Harden, those types of players? Is Eric Gordon going to be in the starting lineup, or are they going to bring him off the bench? To me, I think he's too valuable off the bench to put him in the starting lineup if Chris Paul can't go. So there's some moving parts that Mike D'Antoni has to figure out. You wonder if Game 5 for the Rockets was a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah, listen, did you play a Pyrrhic victory card?
I did. I had to play that.
Brettomology, we got Pyrrhic victory coming out from Chris Canty. We need to go deeper dive into that. But to your point about that, D'Antoni, who said all the right things this entire postseason, knows exactly what's in store if they're going to try and go into Oracle and take what the Warriors have.
If you watch championship games or series and stuff other than the blowouts because you get a team off, they were heavyweight fighters punching it out. And they're not going to let you win on points. You got to knock them out. And I thought our guys just hung in there. They found a way. It won't go down as a classic, oh, look at all this greatness. But it should go down as a hard-fought win. And that's kind of where we are and where we'll be. And
that's sort of the way this series has played out. Outside of like the third quarter in Game 4, where the Warriors went out and just dominated.
You mean that 18-3 run that he went on?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That entire quarter, 34-17, where they outscored him in that third quarter, it hasn't been beautiful, esoteric basketball. It's been just sort of whatever it takes, whatever to get it done. And that's the thing that I respect most about this Houston team is they're willing to muck it up. They're willing to play not dirty, but
goon the game up.
Not goon the game up, but do whatever is necessary to scrap out a win. I like that about this team.
And this team has taken on a little bit of Chris Paul's personality. That's what it feels like because he's always been one of those chippy type of players. And that definitely hasn't been James Harden's calling card, and especially in the postseason. So looking at those guys doing exactly what it takes to be able to dictate the terms that the game is going to be played on, I think that's a huge thing for the Houston Rockets because they can't beat the Golden State Warriors at their own game. They can't beat Golden State in terms of trying to pass the ball around. They've got to go iso ball. They've tried to slow the pace down a little bit. They've been better defensively. So if they can continue on that track, then I think this team gives themselves a good chance when they get back to the Toyota Center for Game 7. I'm assuming that the Golden State Warriors are going to win Game 6.
Right.
Because this is too good of a team to lose 3 straight games to the Houston Rockets. So they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be able to do something. But I think this is going to be big in terms of what's going to happen with Chris Paul. Is he going to be healthy? And if he's not, how is Mike D'Antoni going to juggle his lineup?
Well, to that point, again, if you didn't stay up and watch the entire game, Chris Paul left late in that game. He's had the sore foot, and then he was grabbing the hamstring, and Mike D'Antoni addressed the issue of Chris Paul's health after the win.
He'll be evaluated tomorrow, but obviously you saw him limp off, and he's a tough guy, so they'll do whatever they can do. If he's there, great. Good for him. If he isn't, we have enough guys, and it's time for somebody else to step up. We got plenty of guys over there that will have some fresh legs, that's for sure. So we'll be all right. But we just got to continue what we're doing, and then we'll find that way.
Again, that's what I love about what he says there. We got a lot of guys that have fresh legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players last night. DNP, coach's decision. Okay, and again, the rotation. They played 7, but Green only played 16. Everyone else, Gordon 36, Harden 39, Paul 38, Capella 27, Tucker 42, Trevor Ariza 42. So they have been relying heavily on 6 guys. Now
they're going to ride till the wheels fall off with those guys.
Exactly, but they may have to ride with 5 guys heavy minutes and then 6 or 7 other guys playing 7 or 8 minutes in that contest. But if they're going to win and if they're going to try and find a way to close them out, James Harden's going to have to show up. Because James Harden, he got 19 points last night. 0 of 11 from 3, 5 of 21 from the floor. He's missed his last 23s over the last 2 games. And our Tim McMahon asked James Harden about his 3-point shooting issues. And if you listen closely, he also got a nice little shot in there as well.
James, obviously you're not shooting the 3-ball the way you usually do. Is there anything?
I'm not.
Slight. I'm being kind. Anything you feel?
Who cares? Nah.
Nothing mechanical or anything?
Nothing. I'm just missing shots. But we're winning, and I'm trying to compete on the defensive end and do other things to, help my team win. But if we got a guy like Eric Gordon making shots, and being aggressive, who cares?
While I think it's wonderful that James Harden is trying to contribute on the defensive end of the game, if you're relying on James Harden's defense to help you win, that ain't going to happen, okay? What James Harden needs to play like the presumptive MVP he's going to be. And again, imagine if this was LeBron James, okay? And he went 0 for 11 from 3, 5 of 21. And I know it's a regular season award. I get that. But these playoffs are telling you why LeBron James is the MVP. It's not It's not James Harden. It's going to be, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, the playoff performance is going to be the lasting impression on fans in terms of what that player's season was all about. So if you choke in the conference finals and your team has been relying on you the entire time, then it's hard to believe that you're an MVP caliber player. That's what everybody's going to be looking at. But as far as James Harden and what he needs to do offensively for this team, I think he recognized in the second half when his shot wasn't falling that it was probably in his best interest to try to push the ball, try to drive, get to the basket, and get to the free throw line.
Chris Canty, hold on a minute. We have breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Let's go to researcher Brett. Brett, give us more on Pyrrhic victory.
Well, a Pyrrhic victory, which, by the way, Chris, you used perfectly.
Yeah, it's Wahoo, baby.
A victory in which you suffer great casualties. The origin is from King Pyrrhus of Epirus. I'm probably going to mispronounce all these words. They're ancient Greece.
Clock integrity. Get it out in 20 seconds.
He suffered great casualties against the Romans in the Battle of Heraclea in 280 BC, and he said afterwards that another such victory would undo him.
All right, congratulations. So you used it perfectly, and because of their Pyrrhic victory, you know what happened?
H-Town, stand up!
They stood up, and they stood tall.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News as we continue to get set for what's going to be a great weekend in sports or just in life. Most people getting the 3-day holiday weekend with Memorial Day on Monday, but so much going on this weekend. Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, both could end over the weekend. We got the Indianapolis 500, so much going on. And speaking of hot takes, Ryan Hollins, our ESPN NBA analyst, joins us in studio. And I have to share this story because
hot take.
We were making fun of Brett for his Bob Dylan take. As he walks into the studio, he's trying to convince Chris Canty that Nick Foles should be the starter over Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Come on!
Hey man, listen.
Come on!
Listen, Chris, like I told Chris earlier, there's always a value for a guy who got you there, a guy who his teammates believe in, and who succeeded. It's just hard for me to put that guy on the bench. And I know how great Wentz is. I know he's the future, but brother, them shoulders are heavy right now, man.
You keep talking about the guy that got you there. They won 10 games with Carson Wentz as the starter before Nick Foles even stepped in. Home field had basically been decided in the NFC when Carson Wentz got hurt out in L.A.
Thank you.
So stop it.
And to much is given, much is expected. So now there's even more on that man's shoulders, and he delivered. And Chris, we both been that veteran in the locker room, and the young guy gets drafted. He's fast, he's strong, he's this and that. But he might not know, and I'm not saying Wentz don't know how to play, but there's a value, man. I did my job. What more do you want?
He would have been the MVP if he didn't get hurt there. He knows how to play.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Come on.
We can have this discussion later. You're absolutely.
We will have this discussion
We love
later.
you, but you're absolutely wrong. Let's talk instead about this.
H-Town, stand up!
Stephen A. Smith is the hype man for the Rockets now and forever. Yea, verily, e pluribus unum. There's just no way around that. So what was the most impressive thing, Ryan Hollins, our NBA analyst in studio, that you saw out of the Houston Rockets last night?
James Harden continues to be a superstar. He has sacrificed.
Timeout. Hold on. Let's just.
I was
you want to run it back?
I heard that right. Yeah, I was just making sure.
This is his second time. This is his second game as a superstar.
Timeout. Let's again set the premise here. James Harden is coming off a game in which he missed all 11 three-point shots he took, which is tied for the worst three-point shooting game in NBA history. Mm-hmm. He's missed 20 straight threes, and your reaction to last night's game is James Harden is a superstar.
This is his second game.
I wish you all the best on this
This is his second career game as a superstar. And I say that because I played with him before.
All right.
Dirk, KG, Jason Kidd, Paul Pierce. I played with superstars. These are like, Chris, I'm speaking your language. These are Super Bowl MVPs.
No question.
These aren't regular season, running guns.
Yeah.
James Harden's playing winning basketball. So while we may look and say, he's missing three-pointers, what is he doing? He's an anything type of player. He's doing now, Chris, and we let these guys anything to win the basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
We need defense out of you, Harden, because we got blasted when you had 40, and we got blasted when Sean Livingston gave you the business at half court. And Sean Livingston ain't a shooter. What are you doing, dog?
Mm-hmm.
The next game, he committed himself defensively.
Yep.
Last game, he was did anything to win the game. Superstar effort. He got in the lane. He lived in the paint. Playmaking. which means he opportunistically scored, dunking the ball home, and moved the ball and kicked to that corner, the corner shooter, to get ball movement. That's what his team needed. That's what he gave, and he was locking up Steph Curry. He defended, and when Harden defends, when your 41, 50-point-a-night star defends, it gives confidence to the rest of the team, and that's what you saw. That's star basketball. I watched Kevin Garnett literally rebound, hit a three-pointer, dive on the floor, anything for us to get where we needed to go. I watched Dirk Nowitzki lock up defensively, and we know him for a shooter. I watched those guys. I watched Jason Kidd go all game long without hitting a jump shot and take a big three to put our team ahead.
Okay,
those are stars.
Yes, Ryan Holland's with us. I think you've made an adequate argument for your belief that by stinking from the three-point line, James Harden became a superstar.
That's the game plan, though.
Are you buying it, Chris Canty?
Here's what I'll say. Some of the things that James Harden did in the second half when he realized his jump shot wasn't falling, he started trying to drive the ball, get into the paint, and then create opportunities for other guys. And if that didn't happen, he was getting to the free throw line,
give you this,
which
though,
is
Chris.
important.
Let me give you this, though. How's Golden State playing him?
Yeah, Golden State is having a tough time. They're trying to switch everything.
They're switching everything, but let's dig a little deeper.
Yep.
Watch them. When you watch the next game, they're pressing all the way up on Harden, literally outside of the three-point line, and daring him to drive the ball. His step-back three-pointer is so lethal that, you know, the basketball, we all know there's probably two guys, Steph and he, and I wouldn't even say Durant, that you actually say you got a better percentage sending them to the rim. So they're taking away Harden's three-pointer, and Harden, as I call him anything, he's anything you need right now. So he's driving the ball to the paint. That three-pointer is being taken away. I'm daring you to drive the ball. Remember we would always say, don't give up layups.
Yep.
Never give up layups.
Yep.
Now they're saying, Harden, take a layup, because your two is not as lethal as your three. So that's why we talk about three-point percentage. I have respect that he's sacrificing those three-point shots to get to the rim.
So, Ryan, because of the selfless plays that you're seeing from James Harden, can you say that that's attributed to Chris Paul now being in that Houston Rockets locker room, trying to create that mentality of doing whatever it takes in order for your team to win?
I'm gonna credit CP right now, man, in a big way, because he ain't just talking the talk. We've had problems with him in the past, going out and talking and just saying things. He's backing it up. CP's backing it up, man. He knocked down shot after shot after shot, and he's actually gotten better as a player. Chris's one-on-one game, Chris's three-pointer off the bounce actually got better, and he's hitting it efficiently and at a high clip. And Harden looks over like, okay, let's do what we need to do to win. Chris, you've shown me by example, not by just talking to me.
Listen, you're making a really interesting argument. You really are. I got to say, I'm kind of impressed. As Ryan Hollins, our ESPN NBA analyst in studio with us. So, by the same token, if James Harden going 5 of 21 is a superstar in your eyes, and you've made some compelling arguments as to why he's doing the other things that help the team win, there's no question. Where are we with Kevin Durant right now for the Golden State Warriors? Because he has been a no-show in a lot of ways over these 2-game losing streak. He didn't take a shot in the final 3.5 minutes of the Game 4 loss at home at Oracle, and he was 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter last night. Where is he? Because with all due respect to Steph Curry right now, it is Kevin Durant that drives the bus for the Golden State Warriors.
Whoa. That is another take in itself. That is another take in itself, Wingo. How you put so much on the palette for me?
Come on.
All right.
It's my job. I tee it up, and you got to hit it 300 down the middle.
Kevin Durant is the worst thing for this team right now. He is the worst thing for this basketball team right now.
But he's not the worst best.
He's
I see what
no,
you
he's
did
not
there.
the worst. He's not the worst best. He's definitely not the worst best.
Okay, explain why he's the best.
He's
worst.
so good. He's so good. He's 7 feet. He's long. He can dribble. He can shoot. He can knock down a 3 or 2. He can dunk on you. You want to give him the ball wherever he is on the floor and just say, KD, go make some magic. And you fallen into this, because this was Houston's problem early.
Mm-hmm.
KD hears the ball, 4 guys go on the perimeter and stand, and he's doing it from the absolute worst part on the floor in basketball. Chris, he's operating from the wing, which means defensively we can load up and help, and we can spot over, and that makes our rotations easy. When you cook from the middle of the floor, that's hard to defend. And Golden State ain't never played hold the ball, one-on-one isolation basketball. So that is tearing the Warriors. That was not the Warriors. He's tearing the Warriors apart. Steve Kerr needs to start coaching, man, because that ain't coaching just running, side post-ups for KD, especially down the stretch.
And that's the thing, Ryan. We see the Golden State Warriors doing things that are uncharacteristic of this team, especially on the offensive end in this series.
KD's fault.
So I guess I have the question of, was it the Houston pressure, or is it just the Golden State Warriors relying too much on Kevin Durant?
Ooh, I got to pick a side right now.
You stumped him.
No. It's KD. It's KD's fault.
Okay.
He's too good. It's KD's fault.
He's too good.
And I do respect what Houston is doing, so I don't like to just,
But he's too good in games where he's not shooting in the fourth quarter. Again, I love your perspective because it's an interesting one. There's no question.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we are getting you set for what should be a fantastic Friday and a fantastic holiday weekend, as most people will have the 3-day weekend to celebrate. Glad you're with us. Chris Canty in on Golic and Wingo. For Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here with you. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It's going to be a big weekend in sports, man.
Yes, big weekend in sports, big weekend in the backyard because you got to have the grill going and something cold to drink.
All right, see, now this is important. And my guy, Herm Edwards.
Hello.
Always now, of course, at Arizona State, Herm, forks up. We love you. Always used to say people need to get it straight between a barbecue and a cookout. Okay, he had a line in the sand that he was not willing to cross. Hot dogs and hamburgers, that is not a barbecue. That's a cookout. That's a cookout. Herm is very adamant about that. So doing a barbecue, we're talking chicken, we're talking pulled pork, we're talking meats and ribs, all that kind of stuff. That's a barbecue. Herm will die on that hill. That's a cookout is hamburgers and hot dogs. A barbecue is something else.
Seemed like somebody fooled him in the past. He thought he was showing up for a barbecue where there was some ribs and some wings and all of that, and all he had was burgers and dogs.
Dogs and burgers.
Somebody tricked Coach.
Yeah.
That ain't right. That ain't right,
you
Coach.
You can get him once. You can't get him twice. Okay? That's my guy. That's my road dog right there. So whether you're having a barbecue or a cookout, this weekend, we hope you enjoy one is the really unofficial start to summer because summer doesn't start until June 21st. Hashtag summer solstice. Brett will tell you about it later, even though we won't ask him to. He'll just jump in. But again, Memorial Day weekend is really the official start of the summer holiday season. And this hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Instant Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. And we'll start with what's trending, and the Houston Rockets are trending, baby. 2 straight wins over the defending Golden State Warrior champions. Eric Gordon came off the bench with 24, and his steal in the last possession secured Houston's 98-94 win Thursday. The Rockets now lead 3-2 and can knock out the Golden State Warriors Game 6 Saturday at Oracle.
A lot of the storylines after this game was about Chris Paul and the 18-point second half he put together. But Eric Gordon was right behind him with 17 in the second half and 10 in the fourth quarter. Talk about being clutch, coming up with the plays down the stretch, being able to get Kevin Durant off his feet, the 3 free throws, being able to drive the ball into the lane and get the layup, and then, of course, being able to finish with that big 3-pointer late in that ball game. Eric Gordon was a factor coming in off the bench, and you see in the Golden State Warriors losses, Eric Gordon is averaging over 21 points. In the Golden State Warriors wins, Eric Gordon is a no-show, only averaging 13 points. So clearly he's a factor in this series. Now, to just be interested to see what Mike D'Antoni does if Chris Paul isn't able to go. Is Eric Gordon an option to come off of the bench, or is he going to have to be inserted into the starting lineup?
So then the question becomes, as we've talked about a little bit this morning, what would you do if you're Mike D'Antoni? Do you say, Chris Paul, limp out there, give me everything you got because they're down and they're bleeding, we got to knock them out? Or do you go, buddy, we're going to try and win this one without you, but we got home court for a reason. We believe we can take these guys at our place Game 7. So you rest up, and we'll go all in with you on Game 7.
Well, listen, if you don't have a fully healthy Chris Paul, you're not winning Game 6. So, I mean, I think that's how they have to look at it. Be conservative with that injury that he's dealing with, and hopefully with enough time, he'll be ready for Game 7 if indeed it's that serious where he can't go at 100% in Game 6. But that's how I would play it. I think you've got to be cautious with Chris Paul because he means too much to this team. You can see this team has an element of grittiness, an element of toughness, and you have to attribute that to Chris Paul.
Yeah, no question. And listen, the grit factor, whatever you want to call that, whether you hate it, glue guys, hard work, all that kind of stuff, that's how Houston won that game. They outgritted the Golden State Warriors last night.
100%.
No question about it. They found a way to get down in the muck, not goon it up, but just do whatever it took necessary to scrape out a win. They showed a lot of physical and mental toughness last night, which was really, really impressive. And I think we both expect that same physical and mental toughness tonight out of Cleveland, right?
Yes.
It is Game 6, an elimination game potentially, or not potentially, it is an elimination game. For the Cavaliers if the Celtics win. Game 6, the Celtics up 3-2. It's in Cleveland, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Radio. And here's the deal. LeBron James has never been eliminated at home prior to the NBA Finals, 5-0. He's averaging 33.5 points per game overall when facing elimination, the highest mark in NBA history, a minimum of 5 games. So what do you expect out of LeBron tonight? And we'll get into the Cavs a little bit later.
I know LeBron is going to score tonight. That's what's going to happen. He realizes with this supporting cast, you don't have a lot of skilled guys offensively in the way of being able to create shots for themselves and for teammates. So LeBron James is going to have to carry the mail for the Cleveland Cavaliers on the offensive side of the court. So that's what I expect to see. The Boston Celtics, they're going to throw as many bodies as it takes to throw LeBron James off and keep him from trying to facilitate offense for other players for the Cavs. I just don't know if Boston's going to be able to do enough on the offensive side of the end for themselves, being able to create and score points. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, I love those guys, but they're different players at home versus being on the road. So I expect to see a Cavs team that is able to put together some solid performances from their role players, not so much for the Boston Celtics.
Well, I put it out there on Twitter. Elimination game tonight for LeBron and the Cavs. LeBron has averaged 33.5 points per game over his career, best in NBA history. What does he get? The options were 33, 34, 40, and 400.
I mean,
by the way,
I'm going to take the under on 400.
By the way,
40
40 is leading the way with 60% of the vote. Guess what's second?
What's that?
400 with 30% of the vote.
Wow. Listen,
in other words, people are very confident that LeBron James is going to have a big night tonight, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But as we continue, what's trending on this weekend's edition of Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field. By the way, if you've never been to a game at Wrigley Field, go. You're denying yourself one of life's great pleasures.
Thanks for rubbing it in, Trey, because I've never been to Wrigley Field.
It's fantastic. I've been a couple of times, and every time I have an absolute blast. Our Sunday night crew, play-by-play voice Matt Vasgersian, analysts Alex Rodriguez and Jessica McNoza, are actually going to call the game between the Cubs and the Giants from the right field bleachers, as the Cubs and Chris Bryant host San Francisco and McCutcheon at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. The trio will also lead the fans in singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the 7th inning stretch. I think this is an awesome idea.
Absolutely, it's an awesome idea. Are you kidding me? I mean, having them do that and part of the lead, Take Me Out to the Ball Game chant, I love stuff like that. I love hearing those stories, but you're looking at these two teams and you're saying to yourself, okay, the Cubs, they're not as good as we thought they would be. Now, obviously it's early. We're not even at the third mark of the season. They haven't played 60 games yet, so it's still early, but we thought the Cubs would be better than what they are right now currently. So I'm interested to see that team and what they're going to be able to do moving forward, because they got to put together a little bit of a run here with the Brewers doing what they're doing.
Yeah, the only really tough news for them or good news for them is, they're in fourth place in their division, but they're only 3.5 games back.
Exactly.
It's not like
early.
Milwaukee is running away with it, and we'll see whether the Cardinals, the Pirates, or the Cubs can catch them. I think we can safely conclude for the Reds, we look forward to seeing you in 2019. All right, that was what's trending. Golic and Wingo with you. Chris Canty is in for Mike Golic. And, you always see, Chris, you were a former NFL player, and you have taken a new career path, and you're doing very well, obviously. You work at ESPN 98.7 New York, and you're up here all the time when Golic is away, and it's great. You're doing a great job. You always like to see people find a second career and a second passion once their playing careers are over. You've done that successfully, and our next guest has also done it remarkably successfully. And look, I bump into him about 4 or 5 times a year at different events. I'm always delighted to talk to him, especially about what's he doing now. Four-time NFL Pro Bowler Eddie George joins us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And if we're talking about performance, Eddie George, you're the perfect guest to have on because that's what you do now. You are a very successful actor and performer. You've performed on Broadway, and pretty soon you're coming to the Hartford region here in Connecticut to be in Chicago. First of all, thanks for being with us. When did you know, when your playing days were over, that you wanted to get into this line of work?
Oh, man, when did I know? I think it really didn't appeal to me maybe until about 3-4 years into my commentating career. I was working with Fox for a little while, and initially I wanted to become a better commentator, and I said, well, let me take some theater lessons so I could feel more comfortable in front of the camera and have camera presence and just be myself and so forth. And as I got into it, I realized that the two worlds don't exist. It's not going to help me do that. When the red light comes on, it just comes on. And I just fell in love with the art of storytelling. It was something about being in front of a live audience that really allowed me to become alive again, much like I did on the football field. I had to rely on other castmates, much like I had to rely on other teammates to tell a story. It just really resonated with me on so many levels. And at that particular time, I was able to take a lot of the things that I was going through when I left the game of football with doubt and fear and frustration, excitement. You taking all of that energy and filtering that through the voice of a character, of a story, and through writing and all the elements of acting. And it was very therapeutic, and it's cathartic for me. So I really have enjoyed the process of becoming a character and telling a story and getting lost in that.
Eddie, when the curtains come up, is that same feeling that you have when you're running out of the tunnel on Sunday?
Yes, Chris. I mean, you know that feeling, man. You know, every time the Jets come over the stadium and after they sing the anthem, you're hearing the roar of the crowd, looking at your teammates, realize that you're playing for something greater than yourself. You have only a few falls maybe to accomplish a goal. That feeling never goes away. But now, as I wait in the wings of the stage, it's the same thing. Only this time I know the outcome of the play, and I know I'm not going to get hurt seriously if I'm careful. You can get hurt on stage, but it's a great feeling. Every night that I've done Broadway, when I did Broadway in New York, it felt like a Super Bowl, and it was 8 shows a week, and it definitely at the end of the game, at the end of the show, it just really felt like I was at the end of the game. You pour so much of your energy into it, you have a chance to relive it every night. It's truly exhausting.
Eddie George with us, four-time Pro Bowl running back, now, of course, starring in Chicago, touring across the country. He has been on Broadway in Chicago, and I want to get into more of the acting experience in a minute, but you just alluded to the rush of acting on stage being like the rush of getting ready to play a game when the anthem is being played and the Jets fly over. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation over the last few days, Eddie, about the changes in the NFL's anthem policy. The players, if they're on the field, like when you were playing, you were always in the locker room before, or for most of the time you were in the locker room before the anthem was played, because that policy changed in 2009. So what's your take on what the NFL is trying to do with saying you can either stay in the locker room, or if you're going to be on the field, you have to stand?
Well, when I heard of the news, I was really disappointed in the fact that the NFL, they have a right to take a stance on it, and I felt like moving forward, they needed to change some things. But here's where it gets a little sticky for me, is that they didn't invite anyone from the player side on these meetings, from DeMaurice Smith to the executive committee members, to say, okay, guys, here's what we're thinking. This is what we want to do, and we want to do it in a responsible, collective way moving forward. How can we make you guys feel comfortable? We want everybody to stand for the anthem, but we also want to be sensitive to your Second Amendment rights, your right to
First Amendment rights,
freedom of speech, First Amendment rights. Thank you. for the stand, to protest peacefully. You want to be sensitive to your beliefs and what you believe in and what you're protesting for. Nothing has ever been said about what they were kneeling for, because they're kneeling for the very people that fall under that same flag. And that's where I kind of get really upset about, that they never brought these guys in to include them on this decision. So it's like, okay, you're going to do it our way, and that's it. And it was very disappointing to see how it went down with the NFL and how they did the players, because once again, they begin to put more of a divide between the players and ownership.
And Eddie, that leads me to my next question for you, because you've seen the reaction from players on both sides with this issue and the new policy that the NFL is rolling out as it relates to the anthem. If you were still playing, would you choose to engage in protest during the national anthem?
I would definitely have to do it in a responsible way, because I have people that served in the military in my family. My father served, my grandfather served. I went to a military school. There has to be a collective effort in terms of how can we get our message across so it won't get hijacked and be used differently, so we can be effective in it. And not only are we going to just do an action, but we're going to have a plan to move forward. We're going to do something about it. We're going to get engaged in the community. We're going to do it collectively so our message is not lost. So that being said, yes, I would protest, but I would do it in a way that it wouldn't be offended or the action would overtake our message. That's how I would do it, with a little bit more execution and responsibility, because what's happening now, the message is completely lost, and we're so focused on the action that we're losing the message, and the cause is being lost in the sauce.
Yeah, and that's going to be the challenge for people who want to be activists going forward with this new policy. 4-time NFL Pro Bowl running back Eddie George with us. He's with us now to talk about his second career, which has really taken off. He's an actor. He's a singer. He does all this kind of stuff. It's a brand new way of performing. I have to ask, how nervous were you in making this transition the first time you knew you were going to get up on stage and sort of bear yourself out there in a way that people were not comfortable with seeing you?
Well, that's the thing. When I did Chicago, I did plays, like 4 or 5 plays prior to doing Chicago. I just never did a musical.
Right.
And I tell you what, for me to go up to New York and to debut my acting debut, my acting debut, to be on Broadway, and to sing, that was nerve-wracking, because I never sang outside the walls of my house before, let alone in front of an audience. So, I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth. I didn't know if it was going to be on key, off key, but whatever key I was on, I was going to blame it on the character. So if he cracked a note, hey, that's what he was meant to do. So it's all going to be on him. That's how I looked at it. There are no mistakes in theater, but no, man, it was nerve-wracking, because I didn't know how people were going to receive it. All I had to focus on was to listen. I'm here to do my job. I'm here to portray this character. I'm here to have fun, to engage, and just, be shot out of a cannon and just lay it all on the line. And that's exactly what I did, and I continue to do it. Like 2 or 3 years later, I'm on the traveling shows, going around the country, going to New York to L.A. and Reading, PA, performing with the Chicago Touring Company. So it's been great.
Eddie, I want to ask you about the team that plays on Broadway, the New York Giants. They decided to take Saquon Barkley with the number 2 overall pick. What are your thoughts on that, and what can we expect from him in his rookie season?
Well, my thoughts are, everybody wants to devalue the running back. Oh, they don't need running backs. Running backs are a dime a dozen. You can find anybody in the draft. Well, guess what? New York hasn't been the same without a strong running game, without Bradshaw and those boys when they win the Super Bowl. They've got the smooth receivers, they got all the tight ends, but they can't win no games because you need a running back to control the game. Saquon Barkley is a great pick. I love the kid. I watched him when he was a freshman at Penn State. And the kid, I knew then he was going to be great. Came in Ohio State, and they lost the game, but I said, this guy's going to be special. Rushed over 100 yards that day. Truly a gifted athlete. Can do it all. So versatile. Can run, catch, block. And the thing I love about Saquon Barkley is not so much of his physical abilities, but his attitude. He wants to be a leader.
He runs with
He wants to be the guy. He runs big. I mean, he looks small, but you get up to him in person, he's 225. He's got the cutting ability like Barry Sanders. He's strong enough to break through tackles. I think he if he stays healthy and they use him correctly and they really emphasize the running game with the offensive line and have them coming off guys, I think he can be the rookie of the year. He's that talented.
Wow. First of all, let me just say, as Eddie George is with us, 4-time NFL Pro Bowler, now as a successful actor touring on stage with Chicago across the country. I love the passion that you just played for your position, defending the running back position against all evildoers. But boy, when you talk about power and the cutting ability of Barry Sanders, that's something very special to see. Listen, Eddie, I always run into you a couple times during the year at certain events. It's always great to see you. I'm going to try and get out here and see you on stage when you're up here at the Schubert Theater in Hartford. We're really looking forward to it,
man.
man. We're looking forward to it.
You and Chris, come on up. Enjoy it, man. There's only been a train ride up the way. It's going to be a great time, and I can't wait.
All right, we can't wait to see you. Eddie, thanks for being with us, man, and continued success in the second phase of your career.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Eddie George. I mean, you always love to see guys, because you always wonder about guys, their whole life has been football, or predominantly football.
Yep.
What do they do when the football's over? You've obviously transferred into something very successfully. Sorry, got a word.
Interesting.
You transitioned into something very successfully, and he has transitioned into something very successfully, and we'll see what happens.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Man, getting ready for what's going to be a great, great Friday holiday weekend. Hope you guys are ready to have fun and enjoy it and have a good time responsibly. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And our next guest knows a thing or two about what it takes to win, having worked under some of the greatest coaches in the NBA. He's now, of course, the head coach of the Pelicans. Alvin Gentry joins us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. He's worked under Mike D'Antoni in Phoenix, worked under Steve Kerr in Golden State, and he was a loser to the Warriors. His team was in the Western Conference Finals. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning. What's your first reaction to what we've seen out of Golden State, having lost back-to-back games now for the first time since the 2016 NBA Finals?
Well, I thought the main thing is that, Golden State is a flow team and a ball movement team, and I thought they got caught up a little bit in the isolation game, which is not really their game. And I thought Houston did a good job of making them play that way. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously going back to Golden State in a must-win situation, I think you'll see a different Golden State team.
You're absolutely right, Coach. According to Second Spectrum, the Warriors ran 11 ISO plays per game this season. Entering this series, 20th in the league. They're running 27 ISOs in the Western Conference Finals, at least 20 in every game. Is that a decision they're making or something that Houston is forcing them to do?
Well, I think Houston doesn't get nearly the credit they deserve for their defense. I think what they try to do is put you in a situation where you are playing isolation basketball. I think the thing that hurt Houston most offensively is ball movement, back cutting, just flow offense, and they seem to have struggled in those situations like that.
We're talking with Alvin Gentry, head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. Coach, you work with Steve Kerr. You know him. What do you make of his comments after the game when he said he feels that his team is in a great place considering they're down 3-2 to the Houston Rockets?
Well, they are really a confident team, and why wouldn't there be? They won 2 out of the last 3 championships, and have faced even the championship that we won there. We were down in 2 of the series. Going on the road. So they're coming back home to play. I think they feel like they're capable of winning a home game, and then I think they're capable of winning on anyone's floor. So they are a confident group, but I also think that Houston feel like they got them right where they need to be, and this is why they played for the home court advantage.
No question. They said they were obsessed with trying to find ways to beat the Warriors all season long. Daryl Morey, the Rockets GM, did, and we'll see if they can close them out in Game 6. Alvin Gentry with us, head coach of the Pelicans. And there's an interesting coaching decision that needs to be made here, Coach, by Mike D'Antoni. Obviously, Chris Paul is hurt. That hamstring, you know, a hamstring injury, they can linger, they can take forever. So what do? Let's say he's medically cleared to play, but you know he's nowhere near as effective as he's going to be. Do you say, hey, we got him down, we're going to try and knock him out here in Game 6 with whatever you got for us? Or, look, I need you at your best, and we fought for Game 7 for 82 games for a reason. Let's get you as healthy as you can possibly be for Game 7. If we win Game 6 without you, great. But we know then we come back to Game 7 in our building, and we've got you at the best you can possibly be. How would you play that?
Boy, that's the $1 million decision right there. And I think in that situation, I think that if CP is not completely healthy, I'm not real sure if they will play him. For the very reason that you said, they may need him for Game 7. I think they feel confident in the other guys, but obviously he's been a big part of the reason that they're up 3-2 right now. So I think if he's healthy and if he thinks he can help the team, there's no way CP will not play. But I do think that if he feels like he's going to hurt the team, that he won't go out there and play.
Coach, what have you seen from Kevin Durant in the last 2 fourth quarters? We're talking about Game 4 and Game 5 of this series. He didn't make a shot last night. He was 0 for 4 from the field in the fourth quarter. What are you seeing from him, and why isn't he able to be effective in the clutch?
I think one of the things is that, they've been real physical with him, and that's really about the only way that you can play him. You have to get into his airspace. You got to try to body him over the place. Obviously, PJ Tucker has done a good job with that. They played multiple guys on him. Ariza have done that. I thought Ariza did a great job of just trying to get into him and understanding that there was going to be a couple of fouls that he would have to take. But they've done a good job, and I think because of the isolation basketball and Golden State not moving the ball like they're accustomed to, then all of a sudden Kevin Durant is trying to overpower people, and I think that plays into Houston's hand right there.
Alvin Gentry with us, the head coach of the Pelicans. Let's shift it over to the Eastern Conference. LeBron James and the Cavs are backed into a corner, down 3-2. They have the Celtics in their building for Game 6 tonight. Coach, we all know what the stats say. LeBron James is going to come out firing. He averages 33.5 points in elimination games, best in NBA history. What do you expect not only from LeBron, but from the other Cavs? Because somebody else besides LeBron James has got to have to give them some consistent output on offense if they're going to force a Game 7.
Well, first of all, I don't think there's anybody out there that's willing to bet against LeBron, and they're down 3-2. It's just the way things have gone in this league the last 8 years.
Exactly.
He's going to bring it, but I don't know if they can get by this unless they have someone else step up. You look at the starting backcourt, and they've had like 7 points the last 2 games, and the ones that they've lost. So obviously somebody else has have to step up. I think you'll see Kevin Love play a much better game, and I think LeBron will try to get other people involved early so that he can feel like he's going to have some help down the stretch there. I think he feels confident that he's going to be able to get his, but he's going to have someone else step up with him.
Coach, in these potential elimination games, is the youth and inexperience from a lot of the guys on the Boston Celtics going to work against them, or is this a situation where everybody should trust Brad Stevens because he's a head coach and he's one of the best in the business?
Well, I think what you have is that you got a bunch of good players also. Brad is a heck of a coach, but, you see what Jason Tatum is doing, what Jaylen Brown is doing, and they're a real confident group. This is not a group that feels like, hey, we're rookies and this may be a nervous situation. I think you saw Jason Tatum last night say, we love this situation. We invite this situation, and I think you're going to see those guys step up also.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Listen, we have the potential for both series to end in Game 6 or both go Game 7. If I had to say to you, Alvin Gentry, you got to choose. Either they're both eliminated in Game 6 or we're seeing a Game 7 in both of these series. Where would you hedge your bets?
I would say that we're going to see a Game 7 in both of them. I would be shocked if we don't.
Well, listen, you just made Chris Canty's day. I just want you to know that because he was he was getting so bummed out that we might not get a Game 7.
Hey, Chris got a Super Bowl ring, so I mean, this thing shouldn't even be an issue with him. Okay.
There you go. Hey, Coach, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thanks so much.
All right, sounds good, guys. You guys be good.
Alvin Gentry, head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. So you're happy. You did a little happy dance.
Yeah,
when
just a little bit. Because listen,
we're going to get some game
I'm
sevens.
here for
Come
the
on.
drama. I want the theater in all of this, man. The storylines. You want to see the game sevens, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. We want to see it all play out. And the Golden State Warriors not disposing of the Houston Rockets, in 5 or 6 games. I think this is something that we're excited to watch because everybody was looking at this series as, okay, this is going to be the de facto NBA Finals.
Look, as part of the pettiest show on radio, I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all the pettiness and everything we can get.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. Forward Thinking now is brought to you by Cintas, a trusted partner of businesses everywhere. Cintas, ready for the workday. So Forward Thinking, Celtics and Cavs tonight, Game 6, 8:30 on ESPN and ESPN Radio. Coverage actually begins at 7:30. We both think the Cavs are going to win and force a Game 7, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All
LeBron
right.
James in an elimination game, you know how it's going to go down. So he's going to score a lot of points, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get this thing back to TD Garden. Now, what happens in Game 7, nobody knows, but he's not going to get knocked out of the playoffs tonight.
All right, I agree with you, and Alvin Gentry, the Pelicans head coach, agreed with us in the last segment as well. So let's do some more Forward Thinking.
It's the carb day game that's captivating a nation.
Garlic bread is my favorite food. I could honestly eat it for every meal.
Making everyone who hears it fatter.
No, why would I get fat?
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
Now with your host, researcher Brett, it's bread-tomology.
Take a guess where that came from. Brett's got your answer.
Here are the categories.
Bread. Just bread.
All right. As if we're not making him too much of a star already, we've got another bread-omology segment, and this one is bread-omology. Right?
Yeah, so it's carb day, of course.
Well, not really, but it is.
Yeah.
It's
well,
carburetor day.
Carb day.
It's carburetor day at the Indianapolis 500, so we've just completely corrupted that and called it carb day.
Yeah.
Trey, you have your holidays, I have mine.
There you go. Celebrate it. You put the size in seismology, big guy.
So you said earlier the bun was the least important part of the burger, and
Agreed.
You saw through the glass. I had a conniption over here.
Everybody did. Stanzik went nuts. Canty went nuts. I'm just saying, if you had to eliminate one part of the burger, I'm taking the bun out, and I'll be happy with everything else.
Anyway, so I took the liberty of listing out the top five breads in my eyes.
Top 5 Brett's breads
or
in
bread-omology.
We're starting at number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5, talking about the breakfast essential. We're probably the most irreplaceable bread on the list, the bagel.
Okay, I have some questions. If it's the most irreplaceable, why is it number 5?
Well, it's not the best. It's just the most irreplaceable.
But you said the most irreplaceable means its value is intrinsic.
This is my list, Trey, okay?
Brett, I'm with you on that one. The
Thank
versatility of the bagel is what's important here.
But you're not going to get anything that's like a bagel other than maybe a Bialy, and Bialys are okay.
Okay, Bialys
Number
are like
4.
skinny bagels.
Number 4.
Number 4.
It's light. It's a little bit sweet. It's great for French toast or as a burger bun.
Or
talking about brioche.
Brioche French toast, I'm with you. I can go there. Although brioche is so niche because you can make French toast with so many other things. I think you may have brioche bread a little high on the. I'll give you top 10. Top 10, right?
Yeah.
Not in the top 5.
Bagel should absolutely be ahead of brioche, no question.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3, the king of the flatbread. This is probably the best vehicle for mopping up sauce in the entire world of bread. Talking about naan. Naan.
This is a very controversial list.
Naan is also, if you ask the control room, it's John's favorite. Number 1.
Best bread there is.
Big Ted John.
Wow.
So you
explain yourself.
You obviously disagree with the list if it's the best bread and he's got it at 3.
Get yourself a nice spicy curry, the garlic naan, and go to town.
I can't. I'll give you bagel, even though I didn't like your reasoning for it. Brioche and naan are right out. They're not in the top 5.
Yeah, I'm with you on
having
that
none of that is what I'm saying.
No.
Number 2.
Okay, this one shines in the sandwich arena. For my money, it's the best burger bun and great for a bacon, egg, and cheese. We are referring to the potato roll.
The potato roll. This is a terrible list.
I don't like the list.
This is a terrible list.
No, I don't like where you're going.
If you guys wanted to come up with your own list, you could have done that.
No, so we were busy hosting a show. I apologize. We were every 5 hours we'll go, hey, Brett, say something. We're busy doing all the
something
other stuff.
slightly
Show's
more
4
important.
hours, Trey.
Okay, so yes, but I have prep. So we've got bagel, which is in, right, Chris?
Yeah, bagel.
Brioche, no.
No.
Naan, we're having none of that.
No.
None. Potato roll, no. No. So you have to redeem this list at number one.
I'm sorry you guys aren't cultured like I am.
Okay.
Number 1.
At the top, it is not even close. Have you heard of the French word croustillant?
Yes.
Yes.
It is the crustiness, the sound, the unassailable quality of a perfect loaf of bread.
Yes.
In terms of pure flavor
We're
here,
going croissant.
can't beat this one. Versatility-wise, you can fire it up for a panini,
It's a croissant.
toast.
Just get to it.
Go
Say
with
it.
a
It's a
charcuterie
croissant.
board.
Just
It is
say
not
it. It's
a croissant.
What is it?
It is the sourdough boule. Sourdough.
This is
You
terrible.
can pick
This is
Off the list.
I think this list is worthy of the second Spectrum stat sound. This is terrible. That was an awful
You
list.
put croissant. Croissant's not even a bread. Croissant's a pastry.
Okay.
It's the same
It's the same
semantics.
species. Yes.
Come on, what are we talking about?
Listen,
That's
croissant
like
should be in
saying
there.
pie is your favorite bread.
Focaccia bread should be in there. Focaccia bread should be in there.
You guys are overthinking it. Just go with a biscuit.
There you go.
A good old
Biscuit,
biscuit.
yes.
Come on, man.
Give me some
biscuit.
biscuit
Biscuits with fried
Biscuit got an
chicken.
honorable
Biscuits.
mention.
This is biscuits and gravy.
Biscuit.
Naan, get out. Brioche, get out. Sourdough, I like, but no. Brett, this is the one time you failed us. I want you to know that. And we'll try and redeem yourself next week. Okay, so we both got the Cavs tonight, right?
Yeah, both got the Cavs tonight.
And we think there's going to be a Game 7 with the Warriors and Rockets, right?
Yes. We have to be on board with that. That's what we're going to get this holiday weekend.
So enjoy your carb day, even though it was ruined by Brettomology and the worst list he's ever put together. For everyone here at Golic and Wingo, including our fine guest host, Chris Canty, have a great Memorial Day weekend and enjoy it and have a good time responsibly. We'll see you next week.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
Washing my nose, oh yeah.
I'm a shower curtain, and I do one thing. Keep water from leaking everywhere. So you see why I feel useless compared to Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could Geico save you money, but they've been around for over 75 years. And they give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or on the Geico app. And they've got a 97% customer satisfaction rating. They do all this while I have to listen to this chucklehead. Oh, good, he stopped.
Washing my toes.
Oh, great, an encore.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.